Cool. So let's begin. Just a bit of an overview, first of all, then, of what we're going to kind of do in this session. Just going to talk about the overview of Food Justice Fortnight 2025, some of the key info and our aims for this year. We're then going to talk a bit about kind of event categories, so how we've categorized the events. So that might just help you make sense of if you've already got ideas, or maybe you've had a conversation with me already, or you haven't, that what kind of event that you might be putting on if you do. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the Food Justice Fortnight 2025 theme, which is food and power. We'll talk a little bit about that, but there'll be more information on the website that you can read about too. And then we'll move on to talk about the event hosting grant. So there's a little bit of funding that can be applied for to host an event. Then there'll be next steps and key dates, and then we'll go on to the questions and answers. So I am going to move on. In terms of questions, if you have questions, like as we talk about the different parks, either write them down in the chat or write them down on your own notes, and we'll do it all together at the end and kind of go through them. Might not have the answer yet. We might have to think about it, or maybe we can help each other figure out the answer together. So Food Justice Fortnight. This will be the third year we've run Food Justice Fortnight, 2 weeks of events. Before that, there was Food Justice Week, and before that, there was a Food Justice Day. So we've resisted kind of growing it much bigger to be a month or a year, but it should be all year round, just like Christmas. No. Anyway, so we are aiming, like the last couple of years, to first and foremost kind of celebrate food and community in the city. So, we've got an array of events going on with different organisations, some hosted by us, some hosted by us and other hosts, and some by other organisations. And celebrating food is a really important part of it. So it's an opportunity to celebrate community, celebrate the amazing work that happens in the city. It's a bit of a relentless kind of sector to be working in. There's a lot of hard work going on all the time, so it's something that we want to showcase, just want to kind of show all the amazing work that's happening. So really, it's quite a positive kind of attitude that we try and take, and we try and raise awareness about important issues and things that are happening in cities by making space for conversations about food justice, but also kind of celebrate the amazing things that are happening. And by doing all of this, by coming together, bringing people together who haven't maybe met before, people from different sectors, groups, organizations, communities, we are building some of the resilience that we want to be building in the city when it comes to food. That's the overall aim. And in terms of details, this year we'll be starting on 2nd of June. So it's a little bit earlier than last year, lasting 2 weeks. So from the Monday to the 15th is a Sunday. So for those 2 weeks. Great. And then event categories. So these are kind of broad categories that we have kind of organized events into, just to kind of think about kind of how they might work. So the kind of first one is the Feeding Bristol event. So these are events that we are hosting kind of as an organization, sometimes with other with other organizations, with other groups. So those are events that we are kind of funding, we're putting on, we're designing, and there are basically like our core events of the 2 weeks. So I think we're going to have around 6 of those. And I've had some conversations already with some people around city. So if you've had a chat with me and I've made it seem pretty clear that you'll definitely be putting an event together, you're kind of part of that Feeding Bristol core event group. So that's the first kind of category. The second is like independent events. So this is kind of people who want to put on an event. They've got it all planned. They've got ideas. they've got the resources that they need, and yeah, they just want to kind of crack on with something. So a lot of the time it's something that maybe they're already doing anyway. It's part of like the projects that they run, and they actually want to just kind of do one that's a Food Justice Fortnight theme. So for example, it might be a community lunch that runs every week, but the one that falls during Food Justice Fortnight, or one of them, you choose to kind of make a little bit special and have some questions about food justice or discussions and starters and things like that, or special kind of activities. Yeah, so that's the kind of independently run events. Also maybe for like bigger organizations like universities and so on, they often kind of run their own little talks and sessions. And then we've got co-hosted events. So these are kind of in the middle, where events that are hosted by an organization and Feeding Bristol. And we are involved in kind of one of kind of a couple of capacities. So it might be that we have some funding that we help. So that's how we're kind of co-hosting, is through certain funds, or it could be through other types of support of like putting on, like helping with the comms aspect, helping with the organizing a bit. So yeah, those are the kind of co-hosted events. So it's for the co-hosted events that there's a small amount of money available for. So I'll talk about that in a bit. But in terms of ideas for events, we had a whole range of events in the last couple of years. From community meals to panel discussions, I've got a few down here, cooking sessions, skills sessions, film viewings, all sorts of things, any kind of ways that can bring people together with food and kind of give an opportunity for conversation about food justice. Like we're all ears, and really excited to hear about what you might have, ideas you might have. But yeah, so there's been a wide range, and we're excited to kind of hear about what other ideas people have in store as well. And moving on then to the theme. So yeah, this year's theme is about food and power. And sorry, let me just see questions. Everything all right? Okay. Food and power, and this is kind of trying to tie into the idea that food is a really powerful kind of thing. It is a power in itself. It's a power to kind of feed us, to make us kind of live well, but also for loads of other amazing things to happen. So the theme kind of invites us to think about how food can be a powerful tool for justice and a kind of vehicle for justice and creating a more equal society. And for us to think a bit think a bit more about the tools that we need, or might maybe already have, to kind of harness that power of food. So some questions that might help you think about this are kind of what helps individuals and communities feel empowered when it comes to food, and what food powers are also unique to communities. How can we harness these more? So if you think about things like skills, feeling connected to each other, having access to food, of course, also being able to kind of practice your culture and your identity, all of these kind of help to harness that power. So that's the overall theme for 2025. Sorry if you can hear some noise behind me, some cardboard, probably not that loud. Anyway, okay, so on to the event hosting grant. So we have, that's okay, don't we? So we've got a very small, I have to say, quite small grant with some funds to support like a few events. Really, it's not many. It's not a huge amount. And I think it's important to kind of stress this is part of Feeding Bristol's like budgeting. It's nothing to do with the council or any other kind of government grant. I know recently Feeding Bristol has been distributing kind of a large amount of funds on behalf of Bristol City Council and on behalf of national government, but this has nothing to do with that. So just to let you know, this is quite a small amount, but what we've done in previous years is approach organisations with these small amounts of money to say, do you want to kind of do something together? Whereas we thought, actually, now that we've, there's a bit more, people are a bit more aware of Food Justice Fortnight, it would be nicer for people to apply for things and bring in their own ideas rather than us go to them, and it kind of makes it a bit of a fairer system. So yeah, we're talking about a few kind of grants that will be available 3 to 4 probably. So yeah, it's not a huge amount of money, and it's not going to be a kind of a huge number of events that can be funded through that. But just kind of a bit more info about it. So the priority will be for events that have a community focus and that are providing food through that. And ones that will be different to 2024's co-hosted event. So if you received money last year from us to kind of put on an event, it's probably unlikely that we'll give you money again this year. So just to let you know that. But that doesn't mean you can't put on an independent event or kind of collaborate with other organizations as well to do something different. It's just about kind of sharing the money out across the city. So the process is we've got an information document and a form, which I will share with you shortly. I'll share my screen so you can see what it looks like. I'll let you know where that is. And just to let you know that there's a limit of £500 for each grant. So I know it's not very much, but we would encourage people to collaborate, team up, do different organizations, share resources like space or kind of kitchens and so on to try and bring down the costs. Also, I would say, it doesn't have to be a really big thing. We've had before kind of people doing things like a lunch with a really small group, maybe 10 to 15 people that they work with regularly, of a kind of a community that might be at risk of food insecurity. And it doesn't have to be a big kind of 50-person thing. And in which case, really think about how much money it is that you need for that, because ideally we can fund, a few organizations and maybe give some kind of £100 or £200 just to help with what they're doing. So, I would say only really go for that limit if you think it's needed. It's not like it's a £500 grant. As it is, it's like that's the maximum. Great. So I'll just kind of show you this form then. So I'm going to open up a new window and then share a different screen, and we'll see how well that goes shortly. Not so well. I feel like the share screen button has disappeared. But can you see it? Oh, right, that one, yeah. Thank you. Okay, so yeah, I know, textbook, yeah. I think they like have all these buttons which feel like, oh, that's all the practical stuff, but no, it's hiding. Anyway, so the form looks like this. I'll tell you exactly where you can find it, and like give you the links and stuff at the end of the session. But for now, I'm just going to kind of go through a bit of it together. So it's just a simple form. But what you do need to do, because it's quite hard to get information in this, sorry, I'm in the wrong view, there we go. In this intro bit, is that if you click on the link where it says, please read event hosting information form before completing, make sure you click that link, and that takes you to a document which has information about Food Justice Fortnight, the theme, funding, who will prioritise funding for, and events that we will not be funding. So just to kind of go over those ones that aim to make a profit or to fundraise. It doesn't mean that fundraising events can't be in the Food Justice Fortnight programme, but they will be kind of independent events, so they just won't be receiving kind of funds from us to help with that. Ones that are invite only, so basically to receive the funding, either they need to be kind of open access or supporting a specific community or group. So if it's kind of like invite only but not to support people, then that's probably not something that we would fund. And events that take place on Monday the 2nd before 5 p.m. or Friday the 13th after 3 p.m, just because those are our kind of two of our main Feeding Bristol events. So yeah, basically just don't choose those dates. Great. Okay, so going back to the form then, there's a few different sections, but quite simple. It's about information about the hosts and the organizations, overview of the event, food and funding. So it should take around 10 minutes odd to complete. And the deadline to complete this is March 25th. So yeah, we've got a good month to do that. Yeah, and please do share this widely as well. So that's the link for the form. And I'm now going to go back to my PowerPoint and probably to the wrong place. Loading from the beginning.
All right.
Yeah, that's where we were. Sorry, it's going on. Okay, sorry, back to the dates. So March 25th, that's the deadline to complete the form. And just to let you know, that is also if you want to put on an independent event. It's not just to apply for the funds. So if you're planning an event of any kind that I haven't spoken to you already about, yeah, then please fill in that form. It just helps that we've got a kind of list of all that information ready before we put things out on the programme. And also if you want to put on an event and you want to do it with Feeding Bristol, but maybe you don't actually need funds to do that, but you want to collaborate, please also complete a form for that too. And we will, yeah, basically we'll compile all that information, look through it, make assessments on the funding and the grants, and we'll get in touch basically if we are happy for the event to go in the programme, if it's independent, and we'll get in touch if you've been successful with grants, and also if you haven't, by April the 7th. So hopefully quite a fast turnaround there, so that we can get the first programme with links to tickets out on April the 15th. So yeah, be quite a fast turnaround, but then once that's out there, then we'll just be able to work on event promotion. We'll be doing a second release programme on May the 15th. That's just because usually when you put one kind of programme out, people hear more about things and want to add things to the programme. So that probably won't be relevant to you people here because you're here talking to us about this in February. But yeah, and then on the 2nd of June will be the launch of Food Justice Fortnight. So those are the kind of key dates. And then next steps would be to complete the form by March the 25th, and then we'll be sending out comms toolkits very soon after that. So basically information about kind of, all the kind of text and stuff to talk about Food Justice Fortnight, some of the logos and things like that, and information about use of language and so on. Yeah, that will all be in the comms toolkit, which will be sent soon after and before the first programme comes out. Yeah, so I think that is all the information I was going to give you kind of ahead of the question time. So yeah, now is over to you if anyone has questions. Yeah, so you can use the raise hand feature, or you can put it in the chat. Yeah. Dan. Hi, Dan.
Hi, I've just realised that I wasn't muted that whole time.
I can't
apologies.
hear you.
Can you hear me?
Bear with me.
Can anybody hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
I can hear you now. Thank you.
Okay, great. Yeah, I just had a question about publicity and comms. Can you give me an idea or a sense of what kind of wider comms is going to be like for Food Justice Fortnight if we do put on an event either independently or in partnership? Where is that going to show up? How's it going to be portrayed?
Yeah, great question. So this year I'm hoping for a bit more comms to go out because we have kindly been offered some help from a social media company. But in terms of where things appear, usually it's kind of on our website, through our social media channels. We now have a newsletter, a Substack, so it'll be going through there and on the website, and we'll also be kind of sending information to our contact list. So that's the kind of sphere of influence we have in our comms world. I'm hoping that we're going to be able to have a bit more like individual posts about events happening that we weren't really able to do last year due to capacity. So if you are hosting an event and there's kind of, it's on the program, where I'm hoping that we'll be able to do kind of an individual post about it, but can't really guarantee that. Obviously it depends on the capacity of the company that's supporting us, but yeah, fingers crossed. Does that give good enough answer to Dan?
Yeah, that's great actually. And
Is there a specific kind of...
No, nothing else specific on comms, but I just wanted to clarify something as well in terms of the timescale. So you said March 25th to apply to host an event or to apply for the funding, and I didn't catch the date of when you would confirm who's receiving that funding.
By the 7th of April.
7th, okay, great.
Yeah. And then in terms of the schedule then, or the program, it doesn't have a lot of information on it, but it does have links to the events. So if, for example, then you are successful with getting a grant, or even just, you just get confirmation that you'll be hosting an event, it'll be on the program. We won't then need you to kind of send us a whole bunch of information in a week's time. But if you are doing your own link, which we generally encourage, with people hosting events, that it's better for them to be in charge of the links and like rather than us. That is the one item that we'll be asking for, so that we can add it to the program. Thanks.
In the chat for you.
Question in the chat. Thanks, Joe.
Would it be possible to discuss the plans with you first before the 25th of March?
It's a good question, and I'm afraid the answer is no. Okay, so I'm going away tomorrow for a few weeks. So I'm back on the 20th. So if you have like most of your idea kind of up and ready by then, I'd be happy to have a chat with you and check things then. But yeah, it's not a whole lot of time between when I'm back and the deadline. But it's not like, if you make an application and got some questions about things, that we won't just talk to you about it. So it's not like a kind of confirmed like deadline. Nothing can be edited or so on. We can get in touch after and ask questions. Does that answer your question, Rob?
Yes.
Dan.
Hello. We were just wondering, is it possible for you to say, I think you said you've got some people booked in that you've approached already to host some events, to know, obviously we know the theme is powered, but power and food, but a bit more about those events, so we don't go away and plan something that is already sort of being planned.
Yeah, I'll think about that one, but yeah, probably yes. Because they're not kind of completely confirmed.
Okay.
But the dates pretty much are, yeah.
Or just
I'll come back to you on
whether
that.
it's kind of a community meal or something like that, just so that we're not.
Say that again, sorry.
Oh, sorry. If there was like, for example, you have got something like a community meal planned for the 3rd of June, that
Sure.
we don't need to know the details, but just kind of
Yeah.
idea, so that we're not kind of coming up with something and it's like, oh, actually that's already been done.
Sure. I mean, in terms of community meals, the more the merrier. There could be one a day, there could be 2 or 3 a day, and that would be great. But so basically we've got, I think on the Thursday the 5th, a community meal, and then a closing event which will involve food on Friday the 13th. So those are currently the 2 kind of co-hosted, or like Feeding Bristol co-hosted events that are kind of in the calendar already. But yeah, so that's Thursday the 5th or Friday the 13th. But yeah, I mean, I think, last year, I think we had something like 22, 23 events on the schedule, and there were a lot of things on the same day. And if they're doing different parts of the city, then, you know, that actually just makes it really nice because
Yeah.
there's more things happening and are more approachable to people living in different areas. Yeah,
Great,
Thank you.
thank you.
thanks. Anyone else?
It might be worth talking, if you work in a specific area of Bristol, talking to other organisations who are working in the area.
Yeah,
To
definitely.
make sure that you plan it so that there's a nice balance of events happening and you're not clashing with other local organisations. That might be helpful for us, so that we don't get, you know, 20 people all wanting to run events on the same day in one part of Bristol.
Yeah. I think if that did happen, we would just kind of get in touch and suggest a different date. Yeah, if, you know, you've only got one date that you can do, obviously, yeah, you know, sometimes there'll be clashes. That's kind of okay. But generally, I'd say, you know, get in touch with organisations that are local to you, or, you know, not necessarily local, but you have shared communities of interest that you support. You know, we're really up for seeing collaborations and people kind of working together on events. And that if we do end up getting a lot of applications for grants, I think that will be one of the criteria that we use to for the successful grants will be about groups that are working together. That's generally good for resilience.
If there's although the grant limit is £500, you could put an event on that's more than £500 and use the £500 to like subsidise some of the costs of it.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, should have said that. Like, yeah, I mean, ideally, groups would also kind of contribute a little bit towards it, and this is kind of a buffer fund. So yeah, it's not that like everything needs to be done with that, but maybe that you'd be able to kind of add a bit towards it as well.
And I know that you said not for profit for the event, you could do tickets to cover the cost of the event if it is costing more than that.
I mean, yeah, but I think we would expect there to be like a certain number of free tickets at least. So yeah, I know it's quite tricky because I've had this conversation with Jodie, said that often in Hartcliffe that not doing free events sometimes means that people book tickets and don't come, and you're more likely to get a better turnout if you actually just have like a nominal fee of £1 or something. I know it's a bit tricky, but we do want to keep things as open and accessible as possible. So yeah, having a kind of a minimum number, it all depends on how many people you're expecting to come and how much you're charging and stuff like that. But those are conversations, yeah, that we can have. Hi, Kim. Oh, you're on mute, Kim, sorry. Why'd you break the news?
Sorry. Just again on the grant funding, are there any other restrictions, like you can't use it against staff costs or anything like that? And I'm assuming if we're happy that we could do some commercial income, I'm assuming you're also happy if there was another grant funder in there as well.
It's quite a difficult question to answer.
Put the form in and you'll tell us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there isn't like a kind of we're not going to fund that if you're getting support from other places, and this is going to help towards it. I think, you know, the key thing is that there are, you know, the recipients and the people who are benefiting from this event are communities that are more at risk of food insecurity. Like that will be the kind of main decider.
Yeah.
And then and also I guess it depends how much you're asking for. So if you're asking for like the full whack, but also we're getting money off someone else, but then there was another organization that was, you know, asking for less and not getting any money, then we'd probably be going for them. You know, it's the kind of decision process isn't that. Yeah, it's kind of TBC because we also have no idea how many applicants we're going to get.
Yeah. And I was more thinking, you know, if it made sense that we did it on the same day as one of our community farmer days, for example, then theoretically that is funded by somebody else. So
yeah,
it's fine. We can
go
through the complexities and design something, and then you can give us a yes or no.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No worries. And yes, just a note on like if you do have really pressing questions while I'm away, to send them to the info email, just info@feedingbristol.org, and one of the team will try their best to answer.
We'll just let it sit there.
They're gonna let it sit there till I come back. So please also CC me in. No, if you could do that anyway, that'd be really handy. So when I come back, I have kind of a trail of conversations that have been had. But yeah, if you email those, then those 2 emails, hopefully someone will get back to you before the end of March. Yeah, any other questions? No,
Very quiet.
very quiet.
Anyone got any ideas?
Any ideas? Yeah, anything you want to discuss? Anything you like, actually, I want to, like, this is the thought I have now. Or any offers of collaboration, straight up.
I suppose I put it out there that, you know, obviously the Feed Bristol team are there to help support within those events that you're designing as well. So if you know, you can include us in or ask us to be involved in it.
Yeah.
And we try to get to all the events as well. So it's not a case of just.
Yeah, absolutely. We try and be at all of them, but again, it depends how many. Divide and conquer. Hi. Yeah, exactly. Nat, hi, it seemed you got your hand up.
Hi, yeah. So this is I'm sort of new to all of this, but if we were wanting to put on something within the prison, obviously we can invite a few people, but they'd need gate passes and things. So we wouldn't be able to be a ticketed event, but we would still. It's more about giving the men the information and you know, empowering them and that kind of thing. Is that still okay?
Yeah, I mean, is that for applying for a grant or generally in order to be on the program?
I think that's more generally. We're sort of. I've got 2 ideas. I'd like to do something in the prison, sort of as a wider population thing, but we're also working with the new cafe that's going to be outside HMP Bristol. But I'm not 100% sure at what stage that will be and what we can do. So it's good having options, basically.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I think that's actually just a really good question, something to clarify on our part as well. Just to be on the program, not every event has to be open to the public and everyone has to be able to access tickets. You know, like a lot of the organizations that put on events are working with vulnerable groups or have a kind of like fairly closed kind of project that they work with a specific group of people, like specific individuals, and they want to do something with them. We're not then saying, oh no, you've got to open the gates and other, you know, everyone should be able to come along. Like no, that's also really great, and we want to encourage that too. So what we have done in the past with sessions like that, where it's been, maybe there's been space for only 12 people, and those 12 people already are people who kind of are members or are supported by that organization, is that we create a kind of ticket link with a bit of information about what happens, but we just do it as like sold out straight away, so no one's actually able to sign up.
Cool.
Naughty. Yeah, but yeah, you know, and I think that was a really nice thing about last year. There was a mix of, you know, events where there were really small groups of people doing what they do every week, but with a kind of celebratory kind of approach, or there were bigger public events. There were people who were interested in the subject but don't really know the subject and topics related to food justice but want to know more, and there were others that were more kind of community led. Yeah, so the range of kind of audiences and yeah, like different communities we have, the better, the bigger the range. Yeah. Cool. Any other questions? No? Okay. Well, happy to stick around if anyone does have more questions, they want to discuss an idea they have. But yeah, we'll put this recording up so others can listen back. But yeah, if you do have other questions, please do just email info and we'll try and answer them. But yeah, it's exciting. Very much looking forward to it. Yeah, I know. What's Dan? Yeah, Dan and Lindsay are typing.
Sorry.
Thank you. You're welcome. Great. Yeah, so thanks so much. Thanks for coming. Yeah, thanks for your interest. Yeah, really looking forward to working, guys. Again, we'll just wait a quick question. Yeah, sure, no problem. Yeah, we'll wait. But yeah, everyone's free to go whenever they like.